is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. How you doing, bro? You doing good?
Doing good, just doing my my Friday morning errands, getting the oil change in the car, still being the husband that you got to be, right? You don't, even though you do this full time, you got the other responsibilities. So that's what I call it.
I can leave my messy bed out. Yeah, no, I'm with you, bro. You got to do what you got to do. Yep. And we're in Seattle. You heard what I was talking about before because, you know, we had a guy on ESPN. Well, why don't the Dolphins trade for Bryce Young? And it's like this crazy three-way trade. And players, a lot of them don't understand the business of everything. You know what I mean? But again, it's the 24-hour cycle. When you started in this business compared to what it is now, it's run completely different, bro.
Completely. I started around 1995. I was still a junior in high school, and I started working for the Miami Herald. And I can tell you that the news cycle, I remember, you know, people, I mean, we had no internet basically back then. There was no website. And you know, I used to remember having to put scores into a telephone line. Like I was a clerk late at the Miami Herald that I would have to put in the late night West Coast baseball scores. So people who woke up the next morning didn't have those scores in their paper. They could find out who won the Dodgers game. And now we live in this crazy cycle where people just make up shit all the time just to create buzz. And the biggest thing I tell people, is there's not a lot of journalists left. There's a lot of people who just created a YouTube page or love sports and they're fanatics and this is a passion for them. But people, the general public, don't know the difference sometimes because, hey, I like this guy. He talks about my team. I'm going to tune into the show. Well, there's a difference between a guy who's a fan and there's a difference between somebody who gets paid to do this for a living, that has journalistic integrity and has to do the
actually
job.
has insight too. You can actually talk to some people that actually make the business go. You know, so it's kind of, you know, but it's funny because the ex-players are on all the time, and you know, we've dealt with ex-players. We know how it is, you know, and they were great in their own right, but then when they step into this realm, it's, you know, most of them aren't really willing to work and really understand what they have to do because, again, it's interesting. We do this because we have a passion for it. Yep. And that's usually why we got in it. It's because of a passion, not because, oh my God, we're going to get rich.
No, I have not gotten rich. I'm doing well. I'm able to take care of my girls, but I have not gotten rich. That's the biggest misconception about this job.
Yeah, no, because obviously there are a few people that do end up making some really good money, and God bless you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But most of us are, you know, just we're doing it because we love it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's different. And then when the player tries to get in this business, they don't love this business. They love what they did. They're not going to love what we do. You know what I mean? Because what we do was an extension of what we did as fans. So it's different. Whereas there is no extension to what you did on the field, on the ice. Nothing's going to match that shit, dude. Nothing's going to ever match that, you know? So it's just a different way of media. The South Florida Bulls, one of the things that I like about everything that I've seen this week and the performance I saw last week is they have their attention. And you're better than them. But I love that the Canes under Mario right now seem to have the attitude, yeah, but we're still going to go prove that we're better. We want to prove that we're better.
Yeah, I think their head is in the right place. The culture is in the right place. Nobody's really been cocky. Like, that's one thing I thought there maybe be a little bit more old school Kane swag in the sense of guys talking crap. But Mario just, you know, he's not going to allow that kind of stuff. So we haven't seen any of that yet. You see that Miami's they're having fun, certainly with Cam Ward and the whole, you know, the celebration thing where he puts his hand in front of his face like he's got a big trunk in front of his face, that whole thing. But outside of that, it's been pretty much quiet and businesslike on Miami side. And I think that's good. That's encouraging because I said this to my editors this week. I feel like Mario's on a revenge tour, man. I really feel like after the embarrassment that he endured last season with that Georgia Tech loss and everybody talking crap about him.
First 2 seasons, bro. First two seasons. Just several games that we just said, bro, Mario, what's going on? on game day, bro. Because
Yeah.
we weren't questioning. Nobody questions anything else. It was
Yep.
just, yo, game day. What the hell is going on? And that's
Yep.
why we've kept saying that you have your guys now, clearly, because they don't even act like older. They act like Mario.
They really do. They really do. And I think it's you know, and that's usually what happens by year 3, because you weed out the guys that were there with the previous coach and you bring in new people that are all about, you know, the new vision. And so to me, that's what's happened. You're seeing the year 3 effect, and it's usually the right window, right? People are always like, oh, the first 2 years. It's like, no, dude, he still really doesn't have all of his guys yet. Now you're starting to see, okay, this is really Mario's team.
Yeah. And coaching staff.
And right. And I think you can't underscore that enough. 8 of the 10 assistant coaches are back, including both coordinators. Those systems are in place. There's a comfort level with the language between the players. When guys look to the sideline for an audible, there's not a what does he mean? What is that hand signal? No, you've been doing this for 2 years now. There's a familiarity with it, and you know it like the back of your hand. And that allows you to play at a different speed than other people.
Yes, exactly. And that to me, it just seems like everything is finally coming together on game day, which is because he didn't have the right staff too, you know, the first year. So now, and we're seeing that, you know, I talk about it all the time, that environment is everything, you know, for a player in order for them to succeed. And poor Van Dyke, when he was here, the coach didn't understand what kind of player he was and completely implemented a different offense. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't look like the coach, the coordinator, and the player are all in sync, and there is no synergy. Now, it just seems like synergy is everywhere, dude, right now, going on for the Canes.
Yeah, and you need that if you're going to win a championship. If you're going to reach your highest levels of potential, you can't have problem areas, and that's the thing we've seen to this point. There have been 0 problem areas. Granted, it's 3 pretty easy opponents. Florida's way down compared to where the Gators have been in the past, but still, I mean, the fact that they're completely dominating these teams and not having any issues is the part that encourages you the most if you're a Miami fan, because really there's nothing that's not clicking. There's no extra penalties. There's no dumb sort of, off the field mistakes where guys are getting arrested or, you know, speeding in cars like they are at the University of Georgia, where it seems like every other month there's a guy getting pulled over for speeding. These guys have completely bought into what Mario's doing and what he's about. And so to me, that's the synergy you need. That's the synergy you're talking about. And if you're going to win a championship, you got to be clicking on all those cylinders.
The twisted part about all of this is, and I know that we're going to need the ACC schedule to kind of, you know, be the nail in the coffin for all of us. And we're kind of holding ourselves back, like it was Braxton Berrios, right? That video from him right on the door of the locker room, and they're holding him back. It was Braxton, right?
Yeah. That's at Florida State, I think. Yeah.
And I think that's the Canes nation right now. They're trying to hold themselves back because we're looking at a team that, wait, hold on a second, bro. Cam Ward's not just a good addition. He's a fucking Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Cam Ward is not just a good addition. They're talking about him being a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. They're talking about this team, if the Panthers, if they're number 1, they'll take Cam Ward or whoever. You know, we're hearing some crazy shit now. We're going from, hey, let's have a good season to you got to at least get to the ACC. No, this team could win the ACC, and they actually can make noise in the playoffs. But again, because we haven't seen them do this against good teams on a consistent basis, which is what UM used to be, and that's the streak that we're coming to next after USF, it really starts to pick up, and we'll get a feel for it. But it's funny how our emotions and expectations are waiting and almost, I mean, simmering that it's about to like explode, dude. Explode.
It really is. And the one thing I'll tell you, is even last year, you think about they started 4-0. They had the win over Texas A&M. They beat Temple. They beat teams pretty soundly the first 4 weeks of the season. I think the difference for me is it's the complete domination. Like, and the fact that they're putting up just ridiculous, explosive plays.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew this stat, but they came into this week leading the country with 32 plays of 20 yards or more.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Last year they had 68 plays of 20 yards or
Wow.
more over 13 games.
So they,
So
might,
right now,
they might just pass it. They might
just get over that mark. Last year LSU led the country with 107, so they're actually on pace to like blow that away. I'm not saying they're going to have 107 plays of 20 yards or more, but the point is this feels different than last year. Like people are like, oh well, they were 4-0 last year. Yeah, but they weren't playing like this. They weren't ripping the crap out of teams 62-0.
And playing responsible, playing clean football. It's not stupid. It's not like confused. Dude, this looks good. This looks good. And this win last week, 62-0, it was impressive because you played the game like a professional. You treated them like you're supposed to treat them. The prior Canes teams would have screwed up a whole bunch, and that the other team would have scored, and the game wouldn't have been nearly as perfect. Put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why this week's game Saturday in Tampa, you're facing a good G5 opponent. This is going to be a better test. If they come out and they blow away USF, then I think all doubt is out the window because that Alabama struggled with these guys for 3 quarters. I know they won. 2 years in a row. It was 42-16 the final this year, but it really
they
Alabama
pulled away in the fourth quarter actually.
It was a 1-score game. It was a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter. So if Miami comes out and beats these guys by 35 points and just dominates them and steps on their neck from beginning to end, then I think I don't need that. I don't need any more justification if they do that to this team.
Mario wins big time because he gets to roll the tape from the last 2 years and say, "Hey, you guys want to screw around? Here watch the tape. Watch the tape. They played tight with Alabama, and if Alabama screwed around, they could have lost both of those games or one of the games, and they didn't. They hung on and they won. And that score, they pulled away in the fourth quarter. You guys can't screw around. These guys." So I think they have the best warning sign because Alabama is much better than you are as a program, much richer of a program than you are lately. So if they can take Alabama to the brink, you better wait. And by the way, another road game for them. Now it's not like the Swamp, but it'll be another road game for them. So that's cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be a good test for them. I can tell you from paying attention to the rest of the ACC, some of the teams that are remaining on the schedule have gotten better than I expected them to be. Cal is playing great football. They're probably going to beat Florida State this week. That's a game in a few weeks away. A long trip.
Is that really something? Is that much of an accomplishment being Florida State nowadays?
Well, not anymore. But they did win at Auburn, and they are +8 in the turnover margin. So they are a team that's playing peak defense, to keep them in games and give them a chance to win. So that'll be
they got talent on that defense, bro.
Yeah,
they got talent on that defense.
That's a team that's gotten better. I think Georgia Tech certainly has gotten better. You look at the way they've played early this season. Boston College is not on the schedule this year, but they're a team to watch. Syracuse. So Miami's got some of these teams that I think when we sat here preseason said, oh, this should be a victory for them. I think these teams are gotten a little better too.
Ken Ward, bro, can he really win the Heisman?
I think. Look, I think unfortunately this is the year where a guy like Travis Hunter or even the running back Ashton Jante at Boise State may get a chance to come in and steal it because there's sort of a fatigue level, I think, amongst voters of just always picking a quarterback. But if Miami goes undefeated and wins the ACC and they're number 2 in the country at the end of the season behind Ohio State, which I think is the path that they're on, then I think you have to give him serious consideration, especially if he's leading the country in almost every single passing category like he is right now.
Morrow will be coach of the year.
Oh, yeah.
You don't go from mediocre for 20 years and lift the program out of mediocrity and you put yourself in the national championship picture. We're talking about a leap that few ever do. It's usually gradual.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So if you go from crap shit bowl games every year to Now you're in the in deep run into the playoffs. Wow, dude, that'll be amazing.
Especially if they keep killing everybody the way that they are. If it's blowing people away. And again, I don't think any of the SEC teams are going to go undefeated. So if Miami does go undefeated, wins the ACC, and Cam's number one in a bunch of categories, it's going to be hard for him not to at least be at the ceremony and in the top three. So
yeah, he's definitely working his way to the ceremony.
But I would watch out for Travis Hunter because he is putting up huge numbers on offense, and I would definitely look out for Ashton Gianti, who I think will probably run for like 350 yards this weekend against Portland State and try to pad his numbers.
Although what might hurt Travis is the whole Colorado hate thing, which I don't really understand that stuff. But whatever.
Yeah, I agree. But I think he's going to have a strong case if he's putting up huge offensive numbers and he's playing like a stud on defense. I mean,
sometimes I think with the Colorado situation, I think we have a lot of young people that are covering the sport, and they're running into who Deion Sanders is.
Right. They had no idea this is the guy. Right.
Right.
They don't remember the Tim McCarver fiasco in Atlanta in the World Series that year.
Right, exactly. But like, he's always been this guy. Like, if you want to keep doubting him, go ahead, keep doubting him, whatever, and all that stuff. I still think he'll be successful there because his name, his brand, and the support now that he has behind him, he has the money, and so he'll be able to get the top players to come over there. And you follow all that recruiting stuff. Shouldn't they? It was pretty bad for Miami for 2 years. I love how people say, well, he only won 4 games. Bro, they only won 1 the year before that. What do you want him to do? And so if he wins 5 or 6 or something, but in year 3 or 4, if he starts getting all his guys in there, he won't have Shador, which is a huge difference. But if he can get another quarterback, he'll be just fine, dude. Look at Mario in his 3rd year.
Yeah, I mean, the question is how long does Deion really want to do this? Is he just doing this so he can coach his sons? I think for me, and other journalists who follow the recruiting world, they have not recruited as well as they can because they've kind of been lazy. He doesn't go out and do a whole lot of visits to campuses, and he's kind of the guy who says, no, you guys come to me and I'll romance you and dine you when you're here. Part of it is his health, I think, with his the foot surgeries and all the stuff that he's had to have. But for me personally, I think this is probably going to be his last year because I think he's really in it just for his boys. I really do. I think it's just for his boys.
Wow. Okay. That's wow. That would be devastating for Colorado, dude.
Well, yeah, but that's what happens when you're a program that's on the outside looking in now, and not one of the premier programs in college football. You kind of have to just hope to God that you can bring somebody like him in that can help get people excited about the program and revive it. Like you said, 1 win just a couple years ago. They've been down for a long time. That's not the Colorado we remember with Cordell Stewart and Rashawn Salam and all the other guys that went there.
Michael Westbrook.
Right. The old school Colorado.
Yeah. I would that's the one part that now I would be disappointed. I'm a Deion fan and a Deion believer, but I would be disappointed in him if he did that all just to get his kid through and then leave. I think that would be a real disservice to the Colorado program because they've gone all out. He deserves to do the same thing for several years and give it a go. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he talked about not wanting to go to somewhere where the brand is already built. He wanted to go build his own brand.
Right.
So, you wouldn't be labeled successful. And that's not – see, Jackson State, he was successful. He could walk away.
Right.
I don't think in Colorado you could call it successful if you walk away after this season.
Unfortunately, I think his body language and his behavior speaks to me that this is it for him.
Okay. Well,
maybe
you know
I'm
it
wrong.
Better than I do. No, you know it better than I do. By the way, the FSU mess. I mean, what's up, dude? What's going on there? Holy shit.
I think I wrote a column about this on Saturday. I think the unfortunate part of college football nowadays is if you don't hit on recruiting and you're not developing guys behind guys that you lose, you can have the drop off that that you're seeing at Florida State, and that's essentially what happened. Mike Norvell had a great run with Jordan Travis as his quarterback for the last 2 years. Tried recruiting the quarterback position well, didn't really have anybody waiting in the wings to replace Jordan Travis, had to go into the portal, get DJU, and that's the shortcoming of their offense. And I would say the running back position, same exact thing. They got Trey Benson out of the portal. Trey Benson came in, was a star, did his job. Not really anybody waiting in the wings to take over and be the stud in that backfield. And you look at what's really ailing Florida State. It's everything on offense. You give up 20 points to Memphis. You give up 24, I think, to Georgia Tech, 28 to Boston College. In today's game, you give up less than 30 points. If your defense is giving up less than 30, you should probably be able to score enough points to still win, even if it's a struggle. So I think all the problems for them are on the offensive side of the football, and they just didn't do a good job getting guys ready to take over those leading roles.
Good job. They did a freaking terrible job. All right. Any injuries of concern for the Canes going into this game?
No, I think Ruben Bain might not play again. I think he's probably going to be back the Virginia Tech game. I think Damari Brown is probably a little bit longer in terms of how long he'll be out when he comes back. But, right now, offensively, you're getting back 2 starters, Inez Cooper, Jalen Rivers, left tackle, right guard, 2 guys that have missed a little bit of time. Cooper got hurt in the Ball State game, but he'll be back. So I think, you're going to have your starting offensive line out there. You're going to have a good group that should be able to move the pile and push USF around.
By the way, and don't forget to use our code BIGO10 at caneswear.com. You can get 10% off anything with the logo, with Canes logo on it. Plus, they've got Panthers championship gear, Miami Dolphins, Miami Marlins, InterMiami. You can get your Messi kits, all that kind of stuff. So check it out there at caneswear.com. Canes fans are enjoying the debacle for FSU. But what about Billy Napier? When's he getting fired, bro? I mean, that is a disaster there too.
Yeah, there's no question. I think, I've been digging into that a little bit more this week. I think, one aspect that's really interesting to this whole story, and maybe people don't talk about this, I think it's inevitable Napier's going to get fired. But you talk about Florida and trying to hire somebody who's really good to come in and replace him. They went with a G5 guy in Napier who was at Louisiana the last time. Usually schools decide to go the opposite direction with their next hire, right? So you would say, well, they want to go out and get a Power 4 guy, a proven Power 4 guy. Well, I've seen some reports, obviously, for Lane Kiffin. I've seen some reports about James Franklin. Those guys are great coaches that could come down here and probably flourish with the resources at the University of Florida. But the one thing people don't talk about enough is, we've got a 12-team playoff now that starts December 18th. And if Penn State and Ole Miss are in the playoff, those guys are not going to be available to the University of Florida. And I think that's one thing we got to start getting our brains wrapped around with as college football changes here, is that the coaching carousel, most new head coaches want to start at their new school by the end of November, beginning of December, because you got to sign a recruiting class, even if it's a patchwork recruiting class. Then you got to worry about protecting guys from entering the portal. The portal opens up December 8th. Then you have 30 days basically to restructure your entire team and rebuild it. If these guys are coaching December 18th and the clock starts December 8th, that is a huge disadvantage for the next coach. And a program like the University of Florida that has been tired, they've been down for a while now. Don't forget, this could potentially be their 4th straight losing season. They don't want the next coach to come in and take a long time to start winning again, right? So to me, you can talk about Lane Kiffin, you can talk about James Franklin, you can talk about all these guys that have really good programs, but the likelihood that they're going to leave where they're at coaching in the playoffs to go take over Florida, yes, it's a great job. Yes, it's probably a top 5, top 10 job in college football, but you can't really do that if you're coaching a playoff team. So to me, I think that's one aspect when you hear the reports of who's interested in this job. I think you got to be a little bit smarter and use your brain and say, well, if I'm Florida, as much as I may want one of those guys, it doesn't make any sense for us to have to wait till January to bring them in because they're still coaching their other program.
Yeah, no, and by the way, Ole Miss has done everything for Lane. They give him every resource. I get Florida's going to have it, but I know it's not a lateral move. It's a little bit of a better move to go to Florida. Obviously, a better program overall. But at this moment, it's not a better program than Ole Miss. I mean, he's got one of the best quarterbacks in college football, the Dart kid. I mean,
right.
Well,
I mean, the one thing I will say for Ole Miss is they got a lot of guys that are going to be going to the NFL after this season. So if you talk about having to hit the reset button and starting over at Ole Miss, yes, he will have to do that after next year because Jackson.
But you don't start all over like you will at Florida, bro, where you have to establish everything.
And again, it's like I mentioned, he's more likely than not, Ole Miss is going to be in the playoff this year. I mean, they're a top 5 team right now. If they're in the playoff and they're advancing to the second round and playing December 31st, he is not going to leave Oxford on January 1st or January 2nd, assuming his team loses in that round, and all of a sudden come in and save the Gators when you don't have a spring transfer portal window anymore.
Dude,
that used to be something you could use.
Dude, you answered your fucking question.
Yeah.
The best part that you said was he's going to lose a lot of people to the NFL.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Why would you go to Florida now? That's the cycle that Mario needs to get into. Winning and proving that he can produce players to go to the NFL. If Cam Ward wins the Heisman and goes to the NFL, dude, that Mario will travel less. Because they're going to come to you at times now. Some of those 5-star guys are going to come because, oh my God, you did this for him and that. I want you to do that for me. So that to me, that's where I look at that whole Lane Kiffin thing and I say, at this point, you're Lane Kiffin. You don't leave Ole Miss to go to Florida, dude. You stay there because you're going to impress people more by building Ole Miss than trying to reconstruct Florida that's been constructed many times by others.
The guy who's much more affordable for Florida with buyouts and everything else. And don't forget, you're going to have to pay Billy Napier $26 million to go away, including half of it within the first month of him leaving. So you're going to have to
Manny Diaz. I know you're saying it. Manny Diaz now.
I am not. I'm saying Jed Fish, the former offensive coordinator from the Hurricanes, who's been in a lot of places, had a lot of success last year at Arizona, just got the job at Washington. But his buyout is only $9 million. So that is very affordable to get him out of his contract. Fish is a UF grad, a guy who's had success in the places he's been as a head coach. It's not like he hasn't had success. I think that's the kind of guy that you could target and bring in, and he could get a head start late November and probably do a good job rebuilding the Gators quickly.
All right, caneswear.com is the site. Go see Brett and go see all the guys out there. They know how to get it done, I'm telling you, and the ladies too. They're just a fantastic a group of people. And again, 2655 South University Drive. You go in person, you can use our code BIG010 and get 10% off. If you go online, you can use our code BIG010 and get 10% off. Most of the hats you see me wear on the show, except for this one, I get them at Caneswear, so you can check it out. They've got all kinds. And if you love the old Dolphins logo, they've got tons of hats with the old Dolphins logo. So go check it out at caneswear.com. Follow Manny Navarro on Twitter at Manny_Navarro.